I remember sitting in my office and like looking at the ceiling and being like, is this it? Is this what I wanted? And just not thinking there was another way. And what I realized along the way, though, is alignment with our clients, alignment internally is huge to success and rowing in the right direction and moving everything forward. I practiced my whole time in Big Law. I think it was a total of 11 plus almost 12 years with the same kind of group of people, servicing many similar clients. They feel really blessed. We have a wonderful team and they want to be here and view this as something like that they were looking for.
So how do you deal with those thoughts that creep in? What the hell? How am I going to do this?
Welcome to the Founding Partner Podcast. Join your host, Jonathan Hawkins, as we explore the fascinating stories of successful law firm founders. We'll uncover their beginnings, triumph over challenges, and practice growth. Whether you aspire to launch your own firm, have an entrepreneurial spirit, or are just curious about the legal business, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Founding Partner Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Hawkins. Excited to have today's guest with me. We've got my friend, Laurice Rutledge Lambert with us. She is I'll let her describe it better when it's her turn, but I call her a healthcare lawyer here in Atlanta. She is a founder and CEO, or I'm not sure, founding partner of her new firm, pretty new firm. And I'll let her introduce herself, tell us about her firm and the name and all that.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. It's great to be here. Appreciate you inviting me on. So yeah, Laurice Rutledge Lambert here in Atlanta. Been down here, almost 20 years now, and most of my entire legal career has been here. Recently just started a law firm called Aligned Health Law. We are a values-based, mission-driven business. We're healthcare, regulatory, merger and acquisition, transactional counsel. Our clients are national. We practice all over the country. We have a team of 15 as of today between staff and attorneys. We're barred in about 6 states. And our clients range from entrepreneurs, individuals, Series C backed companies, all the way up to, Fortune 5 publicly traded companies, as well as nonprofit health systems. Honored to be here and look forward to sharing a little bit more about what we're building.
So yeah, we're going to dig into all that. But first, the name. I love the name. It's a great name. I love a trade name. So people who listen to me and who've talked to me know I love those things. So tell me, how did you come up with the name?
That's a good question. I guess going back a little bit, my trajectory is, we'll get into that, I think, but ultimately found myself deciding to be an entrepreneur a little over 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago or so. I would say the 5 years ago, Laurice would never have thought about starting a business, let alone running a law firm. I would have been like, that's a crazy thing to do. And then about 2 years ago, I decided to build what I needed when I was a general counsel for a brief period of time for a company, a technology company, and did a first iteration of this business with, some other folks here in town and, parted ways as of the new year, just decided it was better to go different ways. And what I realized along the way, though, is alignment with our clients, alignment internally, that is huge to success and rowing in the right direction and moving everything forward. So just the word aligned kept resonating. It was something that I was, I think it's just an adjective, but I guess it could arguably be a verb maybe, or I think I'm losing it. I got to go back to English class, or language arts, but I think
I was an engineering major, so don't look to me.
You're not going to be able to help me. And so I think it can be used in a lot of different ways. And so I think it means a lot to have all be rowing in the same direction, not just internally as a team, but with our clients. And so, and also we are a healthcare boutique. We are not we can provide a full range of services in the space for the clients we have, but we are not going to provide services for Motorola unless they decide to launch a telehealth company. And so having health in the name was important to us to kind of show that we are dedicated to this space.
So yeah, I want to dive into your entrepreneurial journey. Maybe we'll save that for later because I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I do want to go back. So, you don't have to take me to why you went to law school. You can if you want. But so you went to law school. You got out of law school. Let me back up first. Before law school, did you work in healthcare at all? Or is this something that you got into after law school?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have been in healthcare about 20 years. So I did some consulting in the DC market for a couple of years in the healthcare space. It was a different side of it. It was more so expert, it was like the expert witness side. But of course, back then I was just a very young consultant. So doing a lot of back analytics. There was a day when I, knew how to use SQL and do SQL programming and but being able to use Excel has served me well over the years. So yeah, I did some consulting work and then came to Atlanta for law school after DC. So that's kind of where it started.
Okay, so you had a background in healthcare, however, whatever side of the healthcare industry that we'll call it. So then you went to law school, came out of law school. Did you go straight to big law?
Yeah, so it's the 3-year, so 04 undergrad, 10 law school. So it had about 3 years in between. And then, yeah, I started at McKenna Long and Aldridge, a big, great kind of historical Atlanta name. And then transitioned with a team of about 30 to 40. I don't actually remember the exact number. When Denton's acquired McKenna Long and Aldridge, a group of us here in the Atlanta market went to Baker Hostetler and really helped Baker's Atlanta office get off the ground. They had a small presence in connection with an IP merger that they'd done. And so we got to it was really incredible to be a part of forming an office of a big law firm in this market. I was still pretty junior then, about a 5th, 6th year associate. But yeah, I practiced my whole time in big law. I think it was a total of 11 plus, almost 12 years with the same kind of group of people, servicing many similar clients of a variety of sizes. And they were national, but a lot of the work was here in the Atlanta market.
And that was healthcare stuff?
Always healthcare. Yeah. I grew up, started out with straight regulatory, for anybody listening that cares about healthcare, Medicare, Medicaid billing, Stark Law, the anti-kickback statute, a lot of the stuff that people get in big trouble for if you don't do it the right way. But really, healthcare business law, helping hospitals, helping doctors, labs, pharmacies, all types of providers align in different ways to partner. I always say in healthcare, it's about follow the money. Anytime I get a new client, it's tell me how you're being paid, tell me how the funds are flowing, because that's where we're going to figure out where the issues are. And then, around 20, I graduated law school when the Affordable Care Act had passed, and that spurred a ton of M&A. So I started my career straight regulatory, and then a couple of years in, there was just transaction after transaction in all markets of the country, but there was a lot going on in the Atlanta and in the greater metropolitan area. So we did a lot of M&A. And then I'd say 2015 is when you started to see kind of an influx of private equity and venture capital money into the healthcare world. Started to see, methadone clinics, REI clinics, so many other types of specialties that might have more of a cash pay or a different connotation. All of a sudden, there's big money involved in either rolling them up, consolidating them. And so started to see a lot of those opportunities as well. So always healthcare the whole way through, loved the industry, not to go back too far, but had a personal interest in it, wanted to go to med school at some point, decided along the way that wasn't the right path for me. I think now for the best, it's tough to be a doctor right now out there with the way reimbursement works. And, I was talking to a doctor today who was saying how she's a gastroenterologist, and she was saying, so frustrating. I have no time in the day. People come in with this one thing. I can't treat the whole person. I can only treat the symptoms. I scope them. I see them. They're out, and I never talk to them again. And I can't actually get at I can't actually really help them. And she's trying to think of a new model because she's like, this is so frustrating. So, I do, ultimately, I think I probably made the right call for myself, but I have always been interested in health and wellness and medicine and all that.
So I never did big law, and maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like my understanding is you go there, you might try out different practice areas, and then when they offer you a job, it's they may ask you, do you want to do litigation or bankruptcy or this, that, the other? But at the end of the day, it's sort of like, we have a slot here, you either go in here or not. So how were you able to say, hey, I've always liked healthcare, that's my interest, put me there? How did that work?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I graduated law school in 2010. I was supposed to end.
Was the worst year ever in the history
to graduate
ever.
law school.
Yeah.
Exactly. There you go. You finished the sentence there. So it was a terrible time to graduate law school. And I had left a consulting job making pretty decent money. It wasn't a ton of money, but for someone a couple years out of school, making decent money, and then went and got a bunch of debt. And I kind of just was like, if I don't go to big law, what have I done? I was like, because I got to pay these loans. And even though I went to Georgia State, which is an awesome school, it was still out of state. It wasn't the same as the in-state tuition. So I still had a hefty bill. And so I was supposed to intern at another law firm. I was always dead set on healthcare, and Georgia State had a great healthcare program. So I was supposed to intern at another firm the summer of 2009. And I found out in March of that year, that was my second, 2L summer, supposed to be a big year to go intern at a big firm. And they canceled the summer program in March of 2009. And I thought that the sky had fallen. I was like, I am over. It is done for me. And I just was devastated. And so I think I think my nature, this will probably come across in this podcast, is like I just hustled. I got upset, but then I just kind of hustled. It was like, okay, I'm going to go do the study abroad program because I played lacrosse in undergrad, so I never got to go on like a spring break trip. So I was like, I'm going to go to the study abroad program, and I got to do study abroad. And then I'm going to go, I got to intern at the time. It was Justice Carol Hunstein, who was like, I think she was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. So I interned for her. And then I coached lacrosse. So I was like, because the internship was free, but I coached lacrosse on the side. And I made it through that 2L summer. Knew I didn't want to be a clerk or a litigator, but at least I did some stuff. And I kind of like launched in on like the fact that I was like doubled down on healthcare. I was like, this is what I want to do. And in the fall of my 3L year, an opportunity to work for McKenna for the healthcare team just came about. And I had met a woman named Charlotte Cambray from Georgia State, who's still with the McKenna Baker team. And Charlotte remembered me and reached out. And this is a good story. I think it's worth sharing. So at the time, the healthcare group was led by Jim Rawls. Jim Rawls is still somebody that I saw him a couple weeks ago for a coffee. And Jim had an amazing career, started at Pogo as like a First Amendment media law lawyer. And then through a lot of just being an expert litigator, excellent litigator, got opportunities to serve health systems and just being a very strategic, winning litigator. He became kind of outside general counsel to DeKalb Hospital, which eventually became part of Emory, and then ultimately Northside Hospital. And so, this team led by Jim was a really, preeminent team in town. Charlotte remembered me and said, let's bring you in to interview for this position. And I remember going in and was like, this is the job. I've got to get this job. And I was so anxious and nervous. And when I first got there, the first thing that somebody said to me was like, hey, we might need to fill this position sooner than when you graduate, but just FYI. And I'm already now I'm devastated. They haven't even started. It's the full half day. You're in the suit. You're going around the office the whole day. You're talking to everybody, telling them your story. So I get through that day and I send everybody thank you emails whenever that day or the next day. And when I reached out to Jim, I told him, I said, I basically really want this. And I know you might have a need sooner. And if you do, please call me because I think that I can work during school because I don't basically want this job to be gone to somebody else. I probably said it a lot softer than that. And, everybody thanked me. And then I remember it was right before Thanksgiving of 2009. And I got an email from Jim Rawls. It's 2 months later. It was like, I need some help. Can you do some research for me? And I was like, yes. He's like, okay, well, I need to be able to pay you. I was like, $20 an hour is great. He's like, we should be a little bored. He's like, I'm going to give you 40. I was like, 40 it is. Sign me up. So I did a couple hours worth of work for Jim. Maybe a week or so later, he called me to tell me that the civil procedure research I did helped him win some case in whatever superior court and thanked me and said, hey, will you come back and meet a few more people? And I said, sure. And a couple weeks later, got the job. And I've always been really proud of that because I do think that showed my hustle. I think that telling him that I really wanted the job and to give me a chance no matter what, really made a difference. And I would never change, although there was a lot of things you could say about big law, I wouldn't trade the time. But in the end, when my time came to an end, it came to an end for a reason and it was time to go. And I'm glad that I didn't listen to kind of the voice of fear that I had at the time and stayed because leaving was the best thing I ever did.
All right, we'll get to that. That's a great story, by the way. I really like that. But before that, so I did not know you played lacrosse in college. So yeah, tell me about that. Tell me about that. So
yeah, I played at William & Mary, Division I. Typical Laurice, captain of every team I've ever played on. Wasn't the best, thinking back. Was a really good high school player. Was an average college lacrosse player, but it was amazing. I mean, great to play. I'm actually my kids are getting of age where they're getting into sports. We're at baseball, we're at basketball. My daughter's actually starting to play lacrosse now. I'm going to coach this spring with her again. And when I first moved to Atlanta, there was no lacrosse community down here. And now there's great leagues and Westminster's excellent. And it's pretty awesome to see. So yeah, it was awesome. I mean, some of my best friends from college. And when I was at my son's basketball game over the weekend and I just get so into it, watching, I just, that athletic, just to be part of a team when you actually get out there and get your head out of the game and you're only just playing, you're thinking about nothing else. It is just nothing better. It's not a better feeling. There's not a better feeling than being out there playing a game with people that you want to, be on a team with. And so it was pretty awesome. And I say that now, kind of parallels. I'm I think at heart, I'm a coach. And so maybe, one day, that's where I end up, but.
Well, it makes sense now. I mean, I've always sensed your intensity and your drive, and now it totally makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
you
lacrosse too. I mean, that's it. That's an aggressive sport.
it's not for the faint of
You're
heart.
hitting people with sticks, Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever break anything?
Knock on wood, no. A lot of bruised arms, and unfortunately, one of my good friends from college took a ball to the face from, 10, 15 yards away and did a number on her. So yeah, to your point, it wasn't, they made us wear goggles, but that was really about it. You didn't have a lot of protection.
Wow. Well, that's cool. A lot of, I talked to a lot of, college athletes, and, the lessons that you learn there really seem to translate to, performing well in business and in a career. So I don't know if there are any lessons you've learned or anything that, I think just the intensity of having to be a college athlete with the classes and going to practice. I mean, just that, balancing that's enough. But I don't know, any parallels you see nowadays?
It's funny that you say that. When I know, we haven't gotten to my whole journey yet, but during the time when I was figuring out what to do before I got to the point of starting my last law firm, and now this, which I view as in some ways very much a conceptual continuation in some ways, I was very lost. It was a period of time where I was lost. I was doing a lot of listening to podcasts, listening to other people's stories, reading. I felt very like, who am I at the age of 40 who have accomplished a lot of good things, but still feel so unclear about the next step in my journey. And I came across this article, I think it was by E&Y, because they do all these like entrepreneurial awards programs. There's like this program, I don't know what it's called, but I met somebody who worked for E&Y that spearheaded this like entrepreneurial program. And I read some article and it said this exact same thing, like college athletes who start a business have like a super high success rate. And I think it's like for many of the reasons you just said, like drive, dedication, and also just like, I don't lose. Like I try to have my drive be directed for the good. And I think that's what stressed me out and made me in the end, why I was so angry when I left my big law career. And I can't blame anybody or anything except, unfortunately, I think that the structure is fundamentally broken. It is a every man for themselves, me at the expense of you, you at the expense of me mentality. And I don't think anybody means to do anybody any harm at the end of the day, but that is just what happens as a result of that structure. And I was like, I'm a team player. This is just so, I was just banging my head against the wall. And it was time for me to leave. And I feel like I've lost my train of thought because I felt like I had a point in saying this. But I think my point was when I was in that setting, I tried not to have my intensity and my desire to be the best hurt anybody else. But yeah, I mean, I do like to win. I like to be excellent at what I do. And so I think those traits have carried through. And now I think I can do them in the right, like wholeheartedly in the right way. Because I think I truly believe like rising tides float all boats, and like sharing credit, boosting other people up, helping generate business, teaching somebody something new, giving somebody interface with a client. I think all that helps the greater good versus feeling like, oh, they're going to take my client if I introduce them to my client. That kind of stuff.
I did not play college sports, but I played through high school and team sports. And one thing that, at least for me, it's, all the things you said, but also you're sort of anti-fragile. So you're not going to win every game. You're going to lose a game and you got to get back out there, play the next one. And it's, you can't be perfect and win everything all the time. And I think in business is much the same. In the law too. I mean, hell, you're going, especially for a litigator, you can't win them all. And you're going to lose. You got to figure out a way to get back up and keep going at it. So
that's right.
So yeah, so real quick, we'll move on from big law, but you had some success there. You made partner, which is sort of the ultimate. Everybody is gunning for that, but sometimes it's like the dog chasing the car. You're not sure it's really a prize that is worth winning. So what was your perspective on winning that prize?
It was exactly that. I was chasing it for so long, and then I got it, and I would say couldn't have been even a couple months after. I remember sitting in my office and like looking at the ceiling and being like, is this it? Is this what I wanted? And just not thinking there was another way. And at the time I was pregnant with our third child, and that was just the facts. And I was like, okay, well, this is it, I guess. But it was like a fleeting thought that I now has a lot of meaning, but at the time just felt a little deflating because it was like you make partner, but you're not an equity partner. And there's this whole another hill to climb with decades more worth of blood, sweat, and tears and politicking and looking over your shoulder. And I was like, is this what I'm doing? Like, am I doing this? And it wasn't getting easier. It was getting harder. And I think it's hard in big law firms today, not just because of the structure, but because I do think there's a generational shift as well with the people 10 years younger than me. They don't want to work on the weekends. They don't want to work at night, and like, more power to them. Like, I wish that I could turn whatever gene I have off and be like, it's 5 o'clock and I'm not going to respond to anybody. That would be cool. Don't think it would work for my business. And so in the big law firms, it was like me. It was that the people that were born in the late 70s, early 80s that were like, it fell on you. Because you got the partners pushing down. You got the associates that you're trying to keep happy so they don't just quit and leave, because they didn't care. They'll just quit and leave. They don't care. And so you're just like, so now I'm in the middle. And if they're on their 4-day vacation with their phone off, which they seem entitled to take when I never did, then I've got to pick up the slack for them. But then I've got 4 partners from different offices calling me, not sharing any generation credit, not sharing any management credit with me, but still expecting me to draft their ridiculous documents. I was like, this is wild.
Yeah. Okay. So eventually you said, all right, this is not for me. So you left big law and then you went in-house, right? Is that was sort of your next stop?
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of people, that sort of go through this path. They're like, oh, the in-house, that's the promised land. And I've been there too. And so what did you find? Was it the promised land? And, what's the difference? I know a lot of it, but I want to hear your perspective. And then how is the transition from being a law firm partner to then all of a sudden going in-house? Because I'll say this before you start. Depends on where you are, but usually in a company, the law department is not a revenue stream. It is an expense.
Correct.
And you are not
Correct.
necessarily
Correct.
treated as,
Yes.
It's sort of a lesser department, I'll say, oftentimes. So what was your experience?
Yeah, it's a little interesting and I think unique, which kind of made it, it'll make more sense of why I did it for 1 year and that was it. So I very much agree with what you said. The first part of my journey in-house, though, I think was very unique. So I went in-house for a client of mine. I had decided, coming back from maternity leave after having my 3rd child and just being crushed from all angles for the reasons I just described, I was like, I've got to do something different. And I thought the answer was another big law firm, because that clearly was going to be better. So I was like interviewing with these other law firms. And then one of my clients, I was lamenting to him over lunch. He texted me to congratulate me because we got 2 deals for him signed that I had helped with. And he's like a very stoic individual, not like a rah-rah, sis-boom-bah kind of guy. And so for him to be like, hey, I wanted to thank you and like give me an exclamation point, I was like, whoa, this is a big deal. So I was like, I've got some leverage. Will you have lunch with me? And he was like, yeah, of course. So we had lunch in a couple weeks after that. And I remember the timing, I think, was unique because I think by the time I had lunch with him, I had kind of talked myself into like maybe not like leaving my job and just staying and pushing through. And I said to him, I was like lamenting about my struggles. And he just was like, well, and he's a salesman at heart. So he let me tell all my tale. And then he's like, well, I was going to let you know that I'm hiring a general counsel and that's going to reduce your work stream from us. And I was like, true. He's like, but I have a stack of resumes, but if you want the job, it's yours. And I knew in that exact moment, my gut, and that's been I was like, if we're going to get to like a moral of the story, that if this podcast helps anybody, is like, when you know, is scary to listen to your gut because your mind is louder. But if you know in your gut this means right, just if you follow it, it'll be okay. So I knew in that moment it was right, but it was really scary. And so it took me like 60 days from the point of like, I know I need to do this to actually like, getting through the process. Well, maybe 30 days from then to like agree to the job, get it signed. And then I had a 60-day notice to give to get out, to leave the firm because I had clients I needed to unwind and I wanted to make sure they were taken care of. And so, but going to that job, and that was an Atlanta-based company called Trailblazer, it's on my link, was awesome. Like I traded in the high heels and the jackets and my opinion, a little bit of the stuffiness for a backpack and jeans and sneakers. And occasionally would walk to work from my office because I live in Midtown, our office is in Midtown. And it was like this open floor plan. And like me and the CEO and the CFO had like conference rooms that were our offices, but it was like all open door and snacks. And there was like the 27-year-old banker dude that came over from SunTrust that would like shoot the guns around the whatever Nerf guns around the office. I was like, where am I? This is pretty cool. And they treated me, I was a cost center arguably, but they did treat me as I thought like a strategic thought partner. And that was great. And, we ended up taking that company through a sale within a year. And so that was truly an incredible experience. The struggle I had, though, was after that exit, which was really only 10 months after I started, we sold to another company where legal truly was looked at as a cost center. And I was no longer viewed as a strategic partner. And now I was not the GC. I was deputy general counsel, reporting to somebody who I knew a lot more than. And also the CEO was not somebody who I viewed as a leader versus my CEO at Trellis was. And it just fundamentally was misaligned. And so ultimately, it's a bit of a story for another day, but I ultimately just exited that company a couple months later. But that was the best thing that ever happened to me, was to kind of be forced to leave in a way on good terms, with financial security, to be able to say, okay, I've got a couple months to figure out what to do next, versus staying and being angry because, frankly, I had been angry for too long in big law. And I had grown so much as an individual in my 1 year in-house. But yes, I would say I had a very unique experience because we were transacting and I got to have a lot of cool interfaces and do things that were not typical. I will say, though, the day-to-day in-house legal work, I didn't love. I liked interacting with the people. I liked sitting in the executive leadership team meetings, and I liked learning how to run a business. That was valuable to me. But I knew that I was in my 1 year there. The constant theme that came up for me was I am more than a lawyer. I am a CEO. And that's why I knew I couldn't go back and be a GC somewhere else.
So I love that experience. So, I've been general counsel before too for business, and similar experience. I was in all the strategy and the meetings, and I'll tell you, I learned so much. Yeah. And it was sort of a mom and pop, and it has grown a lot. And I got to see a lot about, business decision strategy, taking risks, all these things that, you don't learn in a law firm. I mean, I don't care. Maybe if you run it, we'll get to that in a minute. And so that, it was such a great experience. I'm glad you had experience. So is that when you started to have the seeds of an entrepreneurial mindset, or was it before or after that?
Yeah, I think funny, I actually went back to my journal. I would say, so I got over to Trellis in the fall or August of 21. And I found out within 2 months that we were going to transact. And that was a bit scary for me because I despite not being super happy, I had worked a long time to be partner in a big law firm. And when I was considering the Trellis opportunity, I entertained some recruiting just calls. And I would ask the recruiters, well, what do you think about people that go in-house and go back to big law? They're like, oh, it's dead. Once you leave big law, you can't go back. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm foreclosing this door. So now I've moved into this new role, thinking I'll have 2 to 3 years, and knowing that my path is now different. I'm never going back to billing by the hour again. That is done. I've left that behind. And then all of a sudden my world is kind of rocked. Obviously it was exciting to know we were going to transact, but it was very overwhelming and nerve wracking. A lot of things could have gone wrong along the way. And so I remember going back to my journal from December, January 21, 22. And there was seeds of this, a very early ideas had kind of started around that time. And I would say as early as April timeframe is when I kind of think I started my, I would say I've had, we'll get there, a lot of success with business development. And I think it's just because it's a relationship game for me, and people is my thing. People is what I'm good at. But I would say my journey for talking with people, we're going on 3 full years now. April of 22 is when I think I started first having my conversations with people, whether it was looking for a job or just wanting to hear other people's stories. And it was maybe a little bit of it. There were seeds that were planted in that late 21, early 22. But fast forward through that year, exiting Trellis, I just was let me go to lunch with the partner from Baker, who is now the CEO of a really big company here in town. And how did you get to be in that CEO role? Or why am I keep listening to Sarah Blakely founder story? Why is this so powerful to me? And then I just started kind of listening to myself, which is because you want to start something, you want to do something different. And so there was just a series of things. I had all these meetings, and I remember somebody had connected me with a woman named Karma Bass. Karma is her name. Karma and I get on the phone, and I could tell maybe it was a Friday afternoon. I could tell she was probably I'm just doing this as a favor. And I said, I don't really want to talk about healthcare consulting. She had a healthcare consulting shop. I said, can you just tell me your story? Tell me how you started your company. And she lit up, and we had a great discussion. And it was basically that conversation that is what gave me the courage to just be I can do this.
That's
about
awesome.
A year later.
Okay. So
yeah.
So you leave.
And Karma and I are still in touch and have connected each other with clients.
That's awesome. So she inspired you, or that was the seed, or that was the spark, or whatever you want to call it. So fill me in. So at some point you go back to private practice. I don't know if anything happened in between there. You know, you did the transaction, and then you stayed on for a little while.
We
Then
got 3 months in between.
Okay.
It was like left in August, and then December of 22. So left Baker Hospital where I was in August 21, left Trellis in August 22, had 3 months of like, who the hell am I? What am I doing? Dark night of soul type stuff. A lot of journaling, a lot of podcasts, a lot of walks. And then it was, so then it was like late 22, early 23. And I was like, it's time to start something.
Cool. Real quick. Thanks for listening. If you're getting any value out of this podcast, please take 2 seconds to hit the subscribe button and leave a 5-star review. It would really mean a lot to me. Now back to the show. Okay, so then you're back to private practice and you went in with a partner. And so when you started, did you have clients? I mean, you'd come from nowhere, so you had to build from nothing.
Zero clients.
Right? So it was sort of the predecessor to your current firm, so you knew it was going to be healthcare. What did you do? How did you go start getting clients? You start with nothing. Where do you go?
The original clients. So the first was like, who are the people that liked me when I was at Baker? Let me talk to them. And it was the lawyers I worked with. It was the business people I talked to. And then it was like, random people on LinkedIn. I joined this network called Chief, which is this women's like networking group, which for a while didn't seem fruitful, but at this point, I'd say I've definitely monetized that multiple times over with connections I've made. It was just meetings. It was like meeting with whoever would talk to me. I went to ATDC downtown or Midtown. I went to Atlanta Tech Village because I was really interested in the startup scene. I had a lot of iterations in my head about what this would look like. Was it going to be fractional GC work? Was it going to be focusing on early stage companies? So it was going back to old clients, getting meetings on the books. But it took some time, reconnecting with my former colleagues at Trellis, telling them what I was doing and just hustling. And slowly but surely, you get that first client and then someone's got a small project here. And then friend at another boutique firm's like, hey, I've got some overflow stuff I can't pick up. And then that comes my way. And then it just starts to roll. And then around March of 23, I'd say that the steam started to really roll up through by summer of 23, I had gotten like a couple pretty big clients, like pretty big, like Series C, private equity backed, like between like one is still a great client. Now they're a D, Series D, like the baseball coach for my son, who's like been in healthcare his whole career, is awesome. And they were looking, like a lot of my clients were considering whether to bring in a general counsel. But as you know, it's not easy to find the right general counsel, and the wrong internal lawyer actually slows businesses down and frustrates them. So, and a lot of people think that a legal partner bringing in a lawyer is going to lower their outside spend. When you bring in the right legal partner, you're actually not lowering your overall spend. You're paying that person a good amount of money, and they're identifying other areas that you've neglected. So your spend is going to go up. And so a lot of my clients are like, well, we're still probably saving money by, using you as my outside GC. And so it just kind of started to snowball. It was like one connection after the next, and then just doing really good work. In the beginning, it was like, I didn't have anybody to delegate anything to. So it was just me, all the research, all the drafting, everything was me. And just that work ethic again, right? Like working really hard, making sure the work product was as what it needed to be. And I think thinking like the businesses, like my client, I think I thrive in these like venture private equity backed businesses because they're a little risk forward, they move fast, they want someone who's business oriented, and that typically works. That typically my style resonates with them, and I've had a lot of success with those types of businesses. And I would say now, fast forward to today, now I'm just starting to get luckily it's inbounds, right? Now I'm actually getting inbounds. We don't have a website on now, and I've had tremendous success in the month of January, just with people I haven't even tried, and we don't even have a website right now. People don't even know where to find me. And I think that's just because now it's like doing good work, and then enough people know you that now the pie is so big, people just start coming in. But yeah, in the beginning, it was just legitimate straight hustle, following up. Hey, remember me? Putting your tail between your legs a little bit and saying, well, now I'm back. I did the GC thing, but now I'm a lawyer again, so hire me.
I love it. It is a hustle. I mean, some people are afraid to hustle. I don't know. Maybe that's the wrong word, but they don't understand a lot of times the amount of work it takes and sometimes the time. It's
That's right.
I was the engineer, so I'm always comparing it to an exponential curve. It's like you're busting your ass, but early the line is barely moving. It's just it may be doubling every year,
Correct.
but it doesn't look like it.
That's right.
And then you start going up the curve, and then that's sort of where you're going now. And it sounds
like a J curve.
Yeah,
You're cruising along it, and then somewhere along the way it kicks up, and then it just goes.
and you only have your website up, so yeah, you better be ready. Better be getting your sleep. So you went out and you had a partner for a while, and then you guys decided that to go your separate ways, and so recently you've started your new firm, Aligned Health Law, which we talked about, and already you said you had a team of what, 15, 17?
15. It's not all full-time. So we've got 6 full-time partners, a special counsel, 1 full-time associate, 2 individuals studying for the bar right now that'll come back in like independent contractor capacity and then maybe transition to associate. And then 3 people that work with us on a contractor basis. So a couple hours a month or depending on the need. And then we have a chief of staff who the goal is to help elevate me. I love the business development. I love getting out there and networking, but I also do a lot of client work, a lot of client management. And so having her help take a lot of the operational responsibility is important for me, and then keep me straight, calendar and all that jazz. And then we have an admin as well. And frankly, I thought that we might not have enough work for those 2 people, but we do.
There's always enough. Yeah.
So it's something to do.
Well, it's been really impressive. You went out and you've got this, really vibrant firm already. And it's going to be exciting to see where it goes. But let me ask, what's your vision? You've come out really going hard and going strong.
Yeah.
Where do you want it to go?
Well, the
dream big, baby. Tell me the big.
Yeah. What I say every morning is I am the CEO, the visionary CEO of a $100 million ARR business that is revolutionizing the legal industry. How, the vision for how is teamwork. I'm working on the words. To me, though, what is different about what we're creating is we're doing it as a team. And it's not a joke. Like being a part of a team is not like something you say and not do. It is worrying about, it is the other word that I think is resonating with me lately is elevating. The other day I had to talk with my chief of staff because I was like, brought you here because this is an opportunity. Like, I want you to be the COO one day of this company. Like, that's what we're doing here. I was like, and you're going to elevate me and I want to elevate you. And that's what we're doing here. It's like, this is a values-led business, and being a values-led enterprise is not as easy as it seems. And it, caused me a lot of consternation over the past year, knowing that I wanted to run a values-led business and having to figure out what that really meant to me. I had to fire a very big client of mine at the end of last year because it did not align with my values. The way they were treating me, the way that I felt interacting with them was not aligning with my values. And that was a lot of revenue. But I was like, I could do it now or I could do it in a year because I'm going to have to do it. And so, I think in order to show, I remember my associate, when I told her, our junior, just out of law school, she was like, wow, like, I was glad to hear you like terminate that client. I could tell it was taking a toll on you. I was like, well, if I can't show the first year lawyer that I can stand up to a client that's not treating our firm and me with respect, I was like, then I'm not gonna be able to do this. And so, it's a values-led business. I think it's empowerment. It's teamwork, it's elevation. We're literally in the process of marketing and branding, and I'm hopeful my team will help me. But I want it to be big, but it's not a growth for growth's sake. This year to me is a stabilization year. We have a great team. Our partners have kind of a collections-based model. I want everybody to take home a good living. And so I want to make sure there's work for everybody to be done. I'm not out here just trying to go grab to bring people in and say, well, I'm now 50 people. I think my vision is a minimum of a 10-year vision, and it could very well be longer than that. But that's what I'm saying every morning.
I love it. We're going to talk about that offline. I want to talk more about that. Yeah, I love a big vision. I've got one too, and so yeah, we got to talk offline. But the other thing is, that I think is important is it's your life, it's your firm. If your client or whatever is not aligned with what you want, you got to let them go. As hard of a decision as that might seem like, especially, it's hard to turn away money, but like you said, you're either going to do it then or later. You might as well just cut bait, just get it done. So yeah, that was commendable decision there. So yeah, so again, so you just started, you said you're about to get your website up. It is a ton of work to do all this stuff, and you've got clients calling you, got new clients calling you. How are you managing to do it all?
It was rough through the holidays, just getting the other side in general. Like, for example, we were just getting my emails all migrated over. It's like crashed Outlook. And so I had spent multiple hours over the weekend this weekend while my husband was sick, and I had my three kids all by myself, and had the babysitter come. I had them like doing something Friday night where they were entertained, and then I had a babysitter Saturday and Sunday. And during all those hours, probably 9, 10 total, the only downtime I had, I worked in those hours, in part because I needed to get all my emails under control, all to realize that they weren't syncing with webmail and on my app. And so then we just had to basically like import a new version of my inbox, and I lost like all the work I'd done to like organize it. And I was like, okay, well, that's awesome. So stuff like that is tough. And we've been working on resubmitting what we need to get, this is a women-owned business, to get that submitted, to get back into the National Association of Minority and Women-Owned Law Firms. And I give a big thanks to like one of my partners, Jen Witten, who's our managing partner, who's been like tremendous in the operational side, chief of staff, Emily, our administrative executive assistant, Jessica, who have been tremendous. And like, this has been a collective team effort. This has not just been me. And also our outside vendors, our outsourced IT, frontline technology, Matt Hoffman has been tremendous. Our accounting team has been tremendous. So we've had great support with everybody. But yeah, I mean, it's the operational side. It's transitioning from my old firm and dealing with wind down matters there. And then, yeah, I have a pretty big client load as it is, and then a lot of new business opportunities coming in. And so I'm really finding myself leaning in hard on the team. We have a great team, especially the other partners. And so it's like, yeah, no, I don't need to be on that call. Like, you handle it. Okay, yeah, can you call so-and-so and just figure it out and then just run with it? Like, I can't. Lately my call schedule has been so demanding. And so it's hard right now. And my goal for this year, I'm wearing a bracelet right now, this is balance. I need to invoke balance and find it again. I had about 3,100 hours on the books last year, and that's not worth it. It's not the life I want to live. It's not why I did this. My husband has been tremendous and supportive, and frankly, my kids too. Like, they're little, they're 8, 6, and 4, but there were some times in the past couple months where I had to sit them down and be like, Mommy's not able to be her best self right now. Like, Mommy is dealing with some things that are really upsetting to Mommy. And so Mommy is going to have to go upstairs and work right now, even though it's Saturday, or Mommy didn't mean to grump at you. Mommy was frustrated about something else, and like having to dumb it down and say, and my kids, my oldest tells everybody that he knows I own my own business. And he's like, you're not going to have that same name anymore. You have to change your name. I was like, I have to change my name, but that's going to be okay. And, having to explain that to like little kids, that's hard in of itself. But I feel relief and free, and I feel excited to be able to like put the vision together in the way that I, have always wanted it to be. And I'm not sure that you're going to catch me next month working less than I'm working today, but I'm hopeful maybe by June. By June, maybe it'll feel a little bit better. By December of this year, maybe a little bit better. And hopefully that just continues to increase as we can flesh out the team, and the team, everybody can kind of fall into their roles. So it's hard, but I also have realized I'm wired a bit of a certain way. I mean, you talked a little about being in-house. I didn't work less in-house. I think that is people think it's like the holy grail. You work less. I didn't work less. Maybe I worked a little different, but I didn't work less. So. Yeah,
you may not want to hear this, but you're not going to work less. I mean, you'll work different, especially if you want to do a $100 million firm, which, I love it, but you're going to be working a lot. You're going to be working a lot. It's funny. I'm reading or listening to the book about NVIDIA. I don't know if you know much about that company at all, but their CEO is just, that guy works more than anybody ever, period. But anyway, I think, my sense is you're sort of wired that way. So yeah. So, that's right. Just own it. Just own it, Yeah.
Kind of what I'm doing. Yeah. To the best of my ability.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I'll say, when you're so busy, a lot of things that a lot of lawyers have trouble sort of becoming the CEO and stepping back, and because they want to control everything, they're perfectionists, all that stuff. But I guess one good thing of being so busy is you're forced. There's no way you can do it all. So you're forced to learn how to delegate, right?
Absolutely. And I would say I want things to be done the right way, but I have a lot of awareness. I wouldn't say I'm a true perfectionist. Have you done the Enneagram? there's this like personality test and it kind of tells you where you gravitate to. I'm much more of a like, let's just get it done versus like, it needs to be done correctly, but like doesn't need to, my bed isn't made perfectly every morning and things are often a little bit helter skelter, although I like things in order generally. But yeah, it is hard. And I've been actually having to remind myself, if someone doesn't like schedule that meeting within 3 minutes, it's okay. You don't have to do it yourself. It will get done in 30 and that's fine. And so having like, I am reminding myself that like, you've hired this team around you to do things and like, you just gotta let them do it. It may take them an hour or 2 or 3, they'll get it done, and having that trust. But I feel really blessed. We have a wonderful team. Everybody is, I do really think, aligned with what we're building and they want to be here and they view it most importantly as an opportunity. And like, that's how I view it. I'm like, I feel so blessed to be doing this with such amazing people, and they want to be here and view this as something like that they were looking for, but maybe didn't even know they were looking for. And so it's pretty incredible. And, this business, I do believe will grow. And if it ever gets to $100 million, yeah, I think it's because we're good lawyers, but I think it's going to be because we're a values-led business. And I truly believe that.
I agree. A good team, that's where the gold is. It's, you can have the best technology, the best this, the best that, but if you don't have a great team in place, it breaks down. And the other thing I'll say is, for me, and I think for others, and maybe you'd agree, is, a big vision, a big goal, a big trajectory, it creates almost the mission, and it creates opportunity for these people and excitement. It's like, does somebody want to come to a place where it's stagnant, there's not opportunity? I wouldn't want to go there. The kind of person I want to work with wouldn't want to go there. So, that's the other good thing about a big vision.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that. It's true. I view it as like, I think the nice thing, especially Jen and I have been talking about a lot, is like, there's no scarcity here, right? It's all abundance. And like, rising tides float all boats. And if we, like, even other firms out, like, there's plenty of other people doing healthcare law, but like, people ask me about our competitors. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't often feel like I'm pitching against other law firms. I really don't. Like, literally, I get this call last week from a client we're in current engagement with, and he's like, hey, Glenn, you want some more business? I was like, always. He's like, okay. He's like, starts describing this potential joint venture. He's like, I'm dealing with other lawyers. And he's like, and they're making it so bleep, bleep, bleep complicated. And he's like, it's so ridiculous. I'm already over it. He's like, so, do you think you can do this? And I was like, yeah. And so, and then I go look up the players, and I like some pretty sophisticated players out on the West Coast in a market that I would love to be in. And so, I was just like, it's like these little breadcrumbs that just kind of pop up, and I got connected to him through a consultant friend that I met in Chief. I did this presentation and she found me and then talked with her, and then she started her own consulting business. And so it's just such an interesting trail of breadcrumbs, how these things all lead together. And I feel like there was a reason I mentioned that story. Now I forget the loop on it, but anyway, hopefully it wasn't too tangential.
Well, no, it is interesting, how things come about, whether it's fortune or luck or a combination of just, being prepared when the opportunity comes, but you gotta be ready to pounce when it's there. That's the other thing.
That's right. And, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they're like, they just launched, and they're like, oh, we're on a wait list. And I was like, wow, a wait list. Like, I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know that I could tell a client that I have a wait list. Maybe that's kind of cachet, but most of the people I deal with need a lawyer, and they needed the lawyer, and they can't wait for the lawyer. They're going to go somewhere else. So I was like, well, that's cool. I kind of got to find out what that means, but I don't know. I don't know that a wait list is in my DNA.
Okay. So, hustle is just part of your DNA. You got a lot going on. You're doing all this stuff. You're on a good path here. So do you have any routines that help you achieve all this stuff? Because I know, again, you've got 3 young kids, you've got all this stuff going on. How do you make it happen?
Yeah. So I would say I've had this amazing executive, kind of more spiritual coach for the past going on 3.5 years now, who has really, I think, changed my life and helped me get here. Because to me, it's like leaning into the mindset of it's possible. Like, for me to even say out loud that I could run $100 million business, to me 5 years ago, that wouldn't have been a thing. Like, I just thought I was on this hamster wheel, and that's where I was. And that was that. Some people got a good hand, and my hand was okay, and that was fine. And now I just feel like this infinite possibility. I feel like there's just so much. And so right now I do every morning, I kind of wake up with my set of I guess they call them I am statements, these these manifestation statements of what I just said, and, trying to give myself some grace of, I'm great mother who spends time with her kids and her family and like other things that are meaningful to me. And I have like my whole list of them. And so I try to do that every morning. And then really trying to lean into my meditation practice. It's not like I don't meditate for a long time, but like trying to do 10 minutes, 5 days a week that I can. The weekends are hard with the kids, but like 5 days a week, just trying to take 10 minutes in the morning to just calm down, take a minute for myself. Exercise is important to me too. That's kind of ad hoc. That's like, what day can I get to the gym at this time? What day can I take a client call on a walk? One day a week to meet my trainer. Exercise is important, but I would say I'm really leaning into the meditation, leaning into like the I am statements, because I do think there's a little bit to manifesting your own destiny. And then otherwise, just like, again, with the great team around me, like my chief of staff, helping manage me, keeping me straight. I think those are all things. But yeah, I would say well-being wise, it's the mindfulness and the exercise to the extent I can manage it.
Something you said there. So I didn't say this, but I have a very similar vision. I want to create a $100 million a year firm. Yeah. And it's, why not me? Right.
Why not you?
But as I sit here today, I'm like, how the hell am I going to do this? I don't even know. I don't even know how. But
you gotta trust.
But we're going to figure it out.
Gotta trust.
There's the book. A lot of people say it's the who, not how, and it's basically you hire the right people. You don't have to figure it all out yourself. Right. But yeah, there are days where I'm like, am I crazy? And so I'm wondering, are there days that you have where you're like, am I crazy to think this? What the hell? How am I going to do this? So how do you deal with those thoughts that creep in?
So I used to think like that. I only don't think that anymore because of my coach, because I actually have no idea how to make this $100 million business, literally no idea, but I believe it will happen. And I fundamentally am bought into the fact that like, if I am aligned with what I'm supposed to be doing, and like, to me, this is an empowerment journey. I have empowered myself and now I'm able to empower others. And if that is what I'm doing, like I am walking in the light, I am doing good things for this world. And if I'm doing good things for this world, then good things will be attracted. It's like the energy you put out is the energy you attract. And I truly, truly believe that. I feel like I am now only I don't think I always put that out in my younger years, in my years in the big law days, because it was dark. There was dark days a lot. And I've had it, I wouldn't say my journey the past 3.5 years has been full of light. I mean, it has been a bit of a dark journey, and for reasons, things I don't want to share now in this setting, but there have been things that have been very challenging. And so for me, my coach says you got to relinquish the how. I do wake up and say, sometimes I'm like, do you really want to be working this hard? Is this what you want? And then I put in perspective, like, do you want to be working for somebody else? And I say, absolutely not. And so I like
that reframe. Yeah.
Don't want to be working for somebody else. Like, it's not easy being the person that's accountable. I was meeting with somebody yesterday, and yesterday was tough. I'd come off of the whole weekend, my husband, who's a great partner and, always has my back. He's kind of down for the count, had to take some time. And it's like, and not having any downtime over the whole weekend. I mean, came back on Saturday with the kids from running around. I was like, Mommy needs a nap. I was like, you guys can watch your iPads. And they're like, so we're home alone? I was like, you're not home alone. Like, I'm down the hall, but just like, don't burn the house down. And I crashed for like an hour, just fell asleep on like Saturday afternoon. And I was like, and so coming into Monday yesterday, I was like, it was a rainy day here in Atlanta yesterday. I was like, I was off kilter. Yesterday wasn't great, but today the sun's shining. This is a great conversation. It's empowering. And so it feels good. And so I do have to reframe it sometimes, because I'm like, and there's also, then I go meet with other CEOs of businesses that aren't just trading time for money. And I think about the upside on those businesses, but I'm like, you know what? But I'm building something that has a bigger purpose, and I just have to follow that. And, I got down on myself like about a meeting I had, to your point, a little bit of what you're getting at, like, well, how am I ever going to accrete like all this value and this wealth? I don't have any widgets. I don't have any technology. I don't have force multiplication. All I have is relationships and people, but I'm not going to worry about that.
Well, I've got some ideas, and we'll talk about that offline.
Okay.
I think about this quite a bit. So yeah.
Okay, I'd love to. You still owe me a drink, or I owe you a drink. I'm not sure which one of us owes each other a drink. Maybe we each buy one.
So another thing you mentioned is, you were an athlete, so you've always had a coach. You know the value of a good coach. I love coaches. I've had plenty over the years. I have a couple now. I seem to collect them, but it's the other thing is, the other thing I've learned about coaches is they come into your life and they teach you, what they're going to teach you. And then it's time to go find another one. So, how do you find, or how have you found your coaches, and sort of what value do you get from them?
Yeah, I think it's funny. I think the word coaches could be loose, right? Like I view like the CEO I worked with as like a coach in his own way. It wasn't like that's what he set out to do, but I learned so much from how he led and other feedback I've gotten from him over time. The coach I work with now is more spiritual. So it's more so coming at this from a very different way of these like more so retraining of the mindset of like that has, and there's been just a lot of work for me to do there. So we've been working together for about 3.5 years now, and I don't feel like it's stale. I feel like there's still more for me to uncover and for me to learn. And I'm kind of, I don't know, like I think I could learn a lot from a lot of different people, but for right now, I still think that there's this work that I'm doing. Like I do believe that actually I could actually build this business and not work 60 hours a week every week. I do believe that. But I do also think there's something inside of me that's like holding me back from that right now. And I don't understand. I don't know what that is. And I've got to find it. And like, she will help me figure that out. I see you don't know that you really believe me what I'm saying, but I do believe this is true. And I got to find it.
If you want it, you'll get there. If you want it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So I think that you're right. I think you've got to resonate with the person and you've got to feel like they're getting you somewhere. And I do. My coach is tremendous and I do believe, changed my life. And frankly, I give back. Like I invest in her community of women because I believe that like helping then somebody else like maybe be able to afford to go to the retreat that she does or like have coaching sessions, because I believe that like that's a method of paying it forward. And I was thinking just earlier today that I would like to like have her do something for my team, because I think that it could really, help foster what we're trying to get here with our vision and stuff.
I love that. So we've been going for a little while, but want to be respectful of your time. But before we wrap up, I do want to hear, you've had a lot of different experiences, big law, in-house, tech, consultant. You had the stuff before law school. You've been a partner. You've got this new iteration of your firm. For people out there that are thinking about starting a firm or maybe in the early days of it, do you have any pieces of advice?
Yeah, I would say, trust your gut. I bet on yourself. It's not for the faint of heart. I don't know that everybody is a law firm owner or wants to be a law firm owner, but if it's something you started, there's probably a reason you did it. And I would say just trust your gut. And I will say this, I do think you have to spend money to make money. And I think, investing in whether it's a good accountant or a good IT person or a good paralegal or a good admin, it may seem like a cost center, but like you have to, at the end of the day, if you're going to own it, especially if you're just one person starting out, you have to be able to elevate yourself, and you have to be able, the only way to make money, true money, is to have a team below you. And to do that, you have to free yourself up. Like you shouldn't be running your own bills and you shouldn't be scheduling your own meetings. And so I truly believe you have to elevate yourself out. Otherwise, it's fine if you just want to do everything yourself, but that will limit what you're able to build. So that would be, it's like trust yourself, and then it's scary, especially when the revenue is not coming in as quickly as you want it to, but trust that a little bit of money investing in the business will be, and it's also an investment in yourself.
That is such a great point, the investment point. And many lawyers are scared to do it. I talk about it all the time. You got to do it. And I'll say, when I was working as general counsel at this business, that was one of the lessons that I saw over and over and over. The investment for a future expected return was made over and over and over again, where many lawyers are scared to do that for whatever reason. Probably lots of different reasons, but yeah, that's huge. So
that's right.
So I know that as of today, your website might not be launched yet, but by the time this airs, it'll be close if it's not there already. So if there's anybody out there that wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Yeah, I say email Lambert, LLAMBERT @alignedhl.com, ALIGNEDHL.com. That is the best way to get me. I'm also on LinkedIn, Laurice Rutledge Lambert, and you could shoot me a message there too. But for better or for worse, I'm very responsive to email.
Laurice, this has been awesome. I learned some new stuff about you. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for inviting me. It's great to talk with you. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Founding Partner Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts to stay up to date on the latest episodes. You can also connect with Jonathan on LinkedIn and check out the show notes with links to resources mentioned throughout our discussion by visiting www.lawfirmgc.com. We'll see you next time for more origin stories and insights from successful law firm founders.